Okay, well, here we are on a 2023 Boost. I'm one of the guys, I guess, lucky that I got it in January. But it's only got about 65 miles on it right now. So, about my third day out today, or yesterday. It had a check engine light, low fuel pressure. And so, kind of finished out the day. We're back home in the trailer. So we're working on it, trying to see what's going on. Read some few forums about this, and a few guys were talking about electrical problems with the plug at the pressure sensor. So sounded like a good candidate to me. So dug into this. Later I'll try to maybe reverse the video so maybe somebody could see the full teardown to get to this point. But right here where I'm at, kind of decided to maybe I should film this a little bit on the late side. So we've taken the plug apart. This is the body that would go to the fuel pressure sensor, which is going to be located back there. Initially, tugging on all the wires didn't reveal them coming loose. Release the pins. We'll show how to do that here a little later in the video. Pull the pins out. So we've got them out of the body of the connector. Here's your raw pins. Obviously, make sure to document which order they go in. Take a picture or something. So I got it apart, and at this point, then it's a little easier to tug on them, but still didn't run into anything just pulling loose. They still feel relatively tight, but what I'll show you what led me to take this one apart first is if you take your wire, and like this one here, it like just springs, just feels super soft. You know, they really all do, but see this red one here, it actually feels very rigid. So this one here felt very spongy from the tip, and I suspected I'm gonna play with this one first. And this one feels super spongy and soft right here in the body, and that one not conclusive, but this one feels way different than that one and that one. So when I took that one apart, and what I did was here, so I'll take a pick. So this here's the weather boot. You have the pin here. We'll kind of hold into so we'll look at this other one here that I think is really soft and it doesn't feel right. So I'm going to kind of release the clips here that are kind of holding the rubber boot in place, and they're just mild steel, just easy to just kind of bend them up. Just kind of bend them out of the way, remove the tension that's what clamps those on. And so on this other one, then at that time I actually took a tug. I was actually trying to pull, in theory, I should be able to slide the boot, the weather boot, down the wire sheath here. Instead of what happened with that one is the pin just pulled out. And we'll see if that happens the same way as on that one up there. Yeah, it just pulled right out. That shouldn't be happening. I mean, that's just a straight, this would have to been worked back and forth to create that snap. So that one just pulled right out, just like this other one did. And so there's some other guys that have documented this kind of the same event, and yeah, pulled right apart. We'll go ahead on over to this next one. And so what is interesting here, I played with this other boot a little bit. These weather boots are on pretty good. I'm really hoping to be able to slide it down, and then we can repair the connection, either putting new pins on. We'll experiment with that here in a second. So I think I'm gonna check this one too, because it feels just really soft. And so I'll do the same thing. I'll release these little clips here on the side. They don't take nothing, almost your fingernails enough to do it. So we'll try tugging on this one just a little bit. And more, I'm hoping I can slide the boot down. Yeah, well, we got another one. So there's 3 down. Well, we'll see if I'm right, and I feel like this red one feels good. And I think, in theory, that boot should slide on down the wire. That's how it should have worked. So my suspicions was correct in that one. This wire is actually in really good shape. That boot should slide down the wire. If the wire is good inside, or this crimp connection is good, that boot should slide on down the sheath of the wire. And that one did its job just fine. So these ones, the wire just pulled right on out, and they feel really soft here. So here what I'm hoping is that sometimes getting these boots on these wires is a pain. So even after we repair it, I'm hoping I can get this boot down down this sheath here. Let's see if I can just grab the end of the got that one down. We'll end up seeing here if we find some good wire. I'm gonna pull all these back. Back there a little ways. We'll probably end up cutting this tape back and then probably getting a little bit more. All right, I think we're gonna have to go ahead and cut this tape back. We need a little bit more bare wire to work with. So just be careful. These aren't very big wires, and they do cut easily, and they can break easily. You know, you want to watch how much you manipulate this wire, so you don't break them yourself. Just taking my time to try to get that sleeve down without messing up wiring very far. Notoriously, wiring is usually just barely enough to reach whatever it's got to do. So we want to keep our cutting it back to a minimum. Now here I'm going to set those about the same. Okay, so I'm trimmed back. Let's see, finding some good wire here. Where we gotta start? It's our shortest one. Check this one out. Okay, maybe we'll do all of them about there. Farther back. here. So they're all going to end up going in the same plug, so they'll need to be roughly the same length. Probably need to crimp some of these back, strip them back just a little farther. That one's pretty close. I don't think I'm gonna mess with it. I'm gonna give them a twist right now, just so that we don't end up flaring them out and breaking wires. So I'm gonna get them tight. Now, I haven't cut this one yet. I'm gonna make sure, I'm gonna search my inventory in my shop, see if I actually have these pins. If I have these pins, great. Then it's just a matter of really crimping on new pins. That'll be excellent. If I don't have them, then what we're going to look at doing to really just get everything going is we really could take this. We've got some pretty good stubs out here, and then we could do a soldered connection and get everything going, slide the boots back down. But soldering is kind of a pain in the ass. So hopefully we got some pins. But if any of you have ever tried to find these pins, they're very difficult. Auto parts store and everywhere else are just so many different styles anymore that it's pretty difficult to find them. So I'm going to go through my inventory because I do carry some in stock, and we'll resume if I got pins, or we're going to start soldering. Okay, well, we're back. So check my shop. I don't have any pins this size. The niche that I'm in the diesel market, we don't have anything that small that we are using. Auto parts stores, like I figured, would have nothing, and they didn't. So I was getting all set up and ready to solder, but I kind of went in a different route, thinking that some of you might be out there, kind of like I am, we're stuck, we want to get ready to run. So what can we do in the field? Thinking that most of us do not have a soldering iron, and solder probably sitting in our trailers or in the cabin we're staying in. So, but we may have some red butt connectors. Crimp and shrink, it would be great. So I kind of set up an idea here, and it looks like it works out pretty slick. So if you take, so this is a crimp connector with heat shrink tubing on it. So what I found is if we trim it back a little ways, let me grab the body and show you what we're doing. The other thing too, had a Ziploc baggie. These little pins are small and easy to lose. If you lose a pin, you're pretty well SOL. So anything that you can do to make these a lot bigger, and you're not going to lose them somewhere. So that's why I put them in a bag. But just keep in mind that whether you got to wrap some tape on them or something, just keep them a good size so you don't lose them. Oh, that was after the body. Anyways. So what I found here is on a red butt connector, if you peel it on back, it will actually fit in the same hole as the original wiring gaskets were. So I'll go and I'll start peeling one back here, and let's see what we ended up doing. So if you end up taking a razor knife, we'll go ahead and cut an end off. Then about half, probably a little bit past halfway on the connector, you always see there's a stop mark in the middle, and that's where the wire will hit a stop point. It looks to be, to get about the right depth in that body, you probably need to peel the shrink back to about just past that center mark. So we'll sit here and we'll start peeling this stuff off. all that off there. So we got that smooth barrel. And see, now you'll find, so this will now receive that. It'll go ahead and slide in there. So we've got that portion done. Next, we take one of our pins. So these are, it looks like this has been kind of consistent on how they've been breaking out of there. So with any luck, if they stay like that, this makes this kind of easy. I think if they don't, what I've been doing here is to get a little bit more mass inside that, since this wire appears to be probably about a 20 gauge wire. So it's a little small for a red butt connector, but still fine. But we've got enough length here that we could actually probably crimp around this part of the connector that originally crimped around the yellow gasket. So I am taking, just to kind of reduce the mass a little bit, we can clip off some of these little wings here that were originally kind of used to lock it on around the wire gasket. Okay, so we kind of got that out of the way. Now you can take a set of pliers and carefully just start kind of rolling this all back around the wire. And we want to make this diameter of this small enough to hopefully go into the red butt connector. Mind you, this whole time playing with these ends, this wire is fragile, and so are these connectors. You really want to try to minimize how much you're wiggling and manipulating all this, because you can end up snapping it off. So, you know, try to keep everything pretty straight and not rolling it. Take a look, see if that actually fits in that. So here's our connector that we've stripped on back. So the wire's no problem. What we're looking at, see if we can actually get up. I was trying to get up into that body just a little bit, one to kind of shorten the length, but something kind of good, to bigger body to crimp onto, just kind of giving us a little bit more of a reliable attachment point to that connector. That's going in. We're probably pretty good there. The other thing, you're going to battle a length, so you can see where the stop is, and that's where the wire is going to hit. You might choose to trim the wire back just a little bit. I might do that in this case. I think I'm going to shorten that wire some. Looks like I might need to bend this up just a little bit more. Okay, I got that in there a bit farther. I'm just going to kind of compare it to my other one that I did. Okay. Now when you crimp this, so usually any of these crimpers, they're gonna smash and it's gonna misshapen that round barrel. You wanna watch how much you really do that, because then we're gonna distort it too much to fit back in this hole. Because the way it's sitting right now, that's a perfect fit in that hole. So I'm only gonna crimp it a little bit, and that's one reason why I wanted to get some of this connector body in there, because then now it's a super tight fit. So I don't have to give it as much of a squeeze as I would just trying to get into that wire. See, like there, I didn't give it quite enough squeeze. Hopefully we can get back in there. So again, you do want to tug on these, make sure you got yourself a good crimp. Okay, we're still get in there. Watch how far you push in, because you'll lock your pins in again, you know, if you're just doing a test. So here I'd still, you know, tug on it. So it feels like we got ourselves a pretty good end. Now, one thing with these wires I didn't talked about a little bit before, but try to really get everything kind of matched up in length, so you're not going to have a whole bunch of fight pushing these pins on in. So we should be ready to go ahead, and because I've already done that, I'm going to slide this back down. Doesn't hurt. It pays to kind of watch an orientation, so you don't want one with one clip up and one clip down. You're really twisting up your wires. So see if you can kind of keep everything in line to where they need to go. Just a little less stuff to fight to make happen. Okay, so we'll line those up. Now, of course, down here, where crimp on the wire, you can just kind of crimp as normal. I recommend always give it a tug. Okay, we look to be good there. Let's see if one of these things are going to work. It's really windy right here right now, so I'll hurry up and I'll try to shrink this. Okay, another connector done. So I'll proceed on to finish the next one. I'm gonna opt to probably not mess with this wire that was good. I'll probably go ahead for now. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm just gonna bend it back. You know, it'll have a bit of a bend and a curve, you know, to basically match the rest of these, but it's not bad. So I'm not gonna disturb this one. This one feels really great. I think I'm just gonna leave it for now. You could go ahead and cut and strip it and do all the same work, but I figure why try to compromise a good wire at the moment. You know, for right now, trying to get everything going and running, and you know, maybe a more permanent fix later. So we'll get this other connector done and get ready to assemble it. Okay, we're back. Everything's crimped and shrinked, and we're ready to assemble the connector. I mentioned that the one good wire that I'd probably just go ahead and keep it without cutting it and trimming it back. One thing is really after we added the length of the butt connectors, even with all the trimming, you know, we're not that far off. So no sense in kind of compromising a good wire, and we've only just got to shove it back a little bit to engage that, to match the rest. The fancy tool that does these neat, if you're ever to get in here, there's a tool that does these special little crimps. You know, they have a special little jaw that's designed to roll those around. This particular one just happens to be a Mac tool, and I don't know how readily available you can find them in an auto parts store. You might be able to, but this actually does these type of connectors and does those rolled crimps that you'll need to do. If you were to find connector ends, you'll need really a tool that does this. There's nothing else that really does it right without having this. So I'm gonna go back, took a picture of our connector before we took it all back apart. So one way or another, you wanna find a way to mark those locations for the colors. And so just take a picture of it. So we'll put that body together. We'll go back to our little plastic baggie here, get our body out. So check your orientation. So I've got, you know, the connector, the snap piece up, and so then we'll see. So we are our red wire on the outside. I'm gonna start from the middle and work my way out. So we've got green over here. So if you look closely at these, and this is gonna be really kind of hard to do, but when you're there, you'll see one side is the clip that locks into the body. And so you need to make sure that direction. I've actually got release tools for releasing these. This one actually you could use pretty much a normal paper clip, will work pretty well. So you end up seeing that there's a slot in which you put this into, and it's used to get that in there somehow. It would slide in there, release that pin, and then you pull the wire out. So when you put those in, you need to remember what side that is. Now this particular connector style, a lot aren't this way. This actually had a door that you can open up, and inside that door you end up seeing the clips right here. So underneath that flap, the little spring-loaded end will come in here, and it's going to catch on that lip and keep the connector from pulling back out. So before you put it back together, sometimes it pays, after you've pushed that clip in, you've smashed it down. It may not lock again as well. You might need to double check it and see if you just need to lightly lift. Really kind of hard to see. I'll see if we can kind of get it here. Right here, you can see this little tang. So I just lightly lifted that up just a little bit. So I'll come to this next one. And it's down lower, so I'm going to get kind of underneath it. And I'm just going to lift it just a little. Come to the next one. I'm going to get underneath. Lift that one a little. Come over here to this one. And I'm going to lift it just a little bit. So now as it pushes in, they'll flatten out enough to make it through the hole, but they're much more likely to lock again. So after you've bent them in to get the connector out, sometimes they'll stay that way. So let's go ahead and load this up. So looking at my picture, I got a green wire. It is going to go in this middle one here. So I've got the spring up, which that's not the way it needs to be. So our door's down here, so the spring needs to be down. So I'm going to rotate that square down, line up. Now normally, I would say when you would shove that in, you might even hear or feel the click. Being that we've got a lot of resistance in this connector there, you can't move it in that well. You're kind of fighting to shove that red butt connector in there, especially after crimping it. You can look at this end and you can kind of see like it looks like we bottomed out. This is kind of convenient that we can look at that door in there and we can see that we've come all the way in, and you can actually see it has sprung back up. So you want to make sure that you're in deep enough, and with all this resistance we got, it's really critical that you do. Now the next thing would be this, tug it back. Make sure you can't pull it out. So that one feels really good. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my orientation here, go back to my picture. All right, my next one over is a black with, I think, a blue tracer wire. So again, I'm going to look at orientation. So I need my spring down. Carefully bring it back. So I've got my spring clip down. I'm square. probably gonna start getting just a little harder to do, so I'll find my little pliers here. See if I can help myself kind of shove it in. Just a little bit more. Okay, I can look in there, I can pretty much see it. You know, we go and we tug on it. I think we feel pretty good. Okay, back to picture. Okay, so this outer one, so we rotate back, match up our connector. So this outside one is going to be, I believe it's kind of like more of a pink wire. I think it had a tracer on it too, I think a white tracer, but more of a pink wire. So again, I'm gonna look at my spring. It needs to be down. Try to help this come back. Farther. That one might be kind of tough because I think I crimped that one a little good. It's locked in. Okay. Alright. And so the outside one was this red wire. Again, I'm going to go see my spring is down. That one you can hear click. That one goes in a lot easier. That's just the rubber boot. And then we can kind of verify. So I'm a little worried about my outer one there. It just looks like I'm not all the way in. You really want to make sure, because it's pretty easy not to engage the pins if it's backed out a little bit. And why I think that happened is I probably over crimped this one a little bit. And so it's too wide to fit in the hole. But we're going to go double check this. Like I said, this one has that little door that we can open up. So I'll just open it a little bit. I'll try to just make sure that we are looking all the way in. And it's probably pretty hard to see on the camera, but I can tell I'm not. The spring, the little clip is still underneath its bar, so I need to get that one in farther. I may have to pull that one back out and work on bending that differently. So my problem here is I got a little bit aggressive on crimping this one back here. So we're going to try to see if I can kind of round it out a little bit. All right, let's give that a try. All right. Spring clip up. Might even be the heat shrink tubing I didn't cut back as far as I did the others. Okay, success. Might have been a little bit of just even the shrink tubing was just a little long on that one, and it interfered me from being able to do that. All right, that is successfully all together. Now the let's see, I have it there. Okay. Didn't need to do this. I was first researching, trying to ID this connector on how it all came apart, since it's a little foreign to me on this particular one. So I had taken the locking snap out to just see if there was something hidden under it to release anything. There really wasn't, so I'm gonna put this back in. Okay, well, we're back. Connector's all assembled, about ready to go. We'll take a little bit of electrical tape. If you got some, we don't have to, but we'll secure that up a little bit better. And it's kind of cold out here. Even the tape's not wanting to cooperate very well. Okay. I'm just going to do this to help secure the body a little bit better. Being so cold, if you're able to do it, and I should have, if you can kind of warm up your tape first, it sure make it be a lot more pliable and do a better job. This is pretty cold, but so warming your tape up helps a whole lot. We don't need much, so we're gonna call that good. All right, that is one connector all together. Now to route it back here, back to the pressure switch. It was here on the back side of that bracket. We'll check that orientation. So if you get looking, we'll do a reverse video on probably, the tear apart, but here we're going to be going back together. So you can see the turbocharger here. Here's our pressure sensor right there. So this wiring harness, so we've pulled this bracket out of the way to just kind of make a little bit of room. So we'll come on down. The locking clip is on the bottom side of that sensor, so this should be on the bottom. So we'll kind of manipulate it on in here. Hopefully we have enough wire length. After all that. Okay. Clipped and locked. I'm just going to kind of make sure we're doing okay here on that wiring. And probably if you're a little short on the wiring for some reason, I would suspect, and I'm going to do it, if you probably cut the tape back a little bit, you could probably pull this harness back some more back to here and relieve some strain on that. If for some reason you ended up being short on wire or it's really tight, I would imagine you could probably pull this back up heading that way towards the ECM and free up some wiring here. It feels like it goes that way. So if you got in a bind, do that. So here I've taken this bracketry loose just to kind of make some a little bit more room. So these two go there. So we get our push pins back. And I'll get the one in the hole here. That one's there. I'll get this one over here started. Okay, got to push down. We'll go ahead and push the pin in, lock it. Maybe. Give it a little help. Okay. All right, so we've got that bracket locked back in. Get our, took a couple connectors loose just to kind of free it up a little bit and give us some room to work. So that's in. Okay, this one goes back up here. Lock that one in. All right. Just double check everything, make sure you got them all plugged back in and all the right places. I don't know if you saw here. So here's your turbocharger. It really pays to just do something to cover that up. You really don't want to drop something in there and you'll really be regretting life. So here was just real easy. Just take a towel, take the clamp, go back over. Great. If you got some tape, put some tape over it. Just find out what works best. But really, accidents happen. You drop a screw, you drop that little pin that you're working on, or you're cutting the wires and you drop those in there, you're going to be in trouble. So cover that gem up while you're still working. All right, we'll kind of continue along here on finishing putting this panels back together. All right. Okay, let's finish putting this back together. We just wrapped up connecting our pressure sensor wiring harness and gotten those harnesses back together. So now it's time to put all the panels back on. I'll get my jacket out of here. Probably put it on. Okay, so to make some room here, we took the air box off. So we'll flip this back around. Get it tucked back into here. Okay, we're about all set. I can swing this back around. Just checking, make sure you didn't drop anything in here. So again, it all goes into your turbocharger. So just pays to look. Okay, I'll connect it back up. So at this stage, I'm gonna go ahead and take my protecting wrap off this, pull that out, so I could switch that back out. Now I tighten this clamp in order to hold the towel on well. So we'll back this back off, slip it back over the intake boot here. Okay, back in place. This came back off. Snake that on over. Get that tucked back on in there. Sure to bring these pieces together. Okay. So there we are. All in position with that. Okay. Now we've got the dash cover piece to get back on. I used a bungee cord here to kind of just hold it out of my way. No sense in pulling the whole thing off for doing the work we just did. So that just gave me a little bit of room. One thing I noticed, if you guys end up doing this yourselves, you know how all of our sleds have been in for all these nice fun dealer recalls. I've noticed they've been damaging my frog skin covers here for the airbox. When you pull this part of the panel up and around this cover, they're starting to rip off my frog skins. I think the more damage is on the one over there, but I don't think they're dragging the plastic over and kind of destroying that. So be kind of aware of that and help protect those as you're going back together. This does take a little finessing. We are back and over the gas tank filler neck right there. Okay, so here's where you got to kind of sneak around, you know, these frog skins. So that one's nice and around, and then this side will do the same. Okay, around there. That's gonna go back in there. All right, looks like we got those panels all in place and our screws are lining up there. All right, little dash piece here with the switches. Tuck our wires back in. Hook that in. Get this up and over the gas tank filler neck. Here's the retaining ring. Maybe. Okay. Let's get that in place. I'll probably come back to this and tighten it some more. For right now, we're just gonna kind of get everything snug together. I'm gonna put my gas cap back on before I drop anything in there. Okay, so that's just sealed up for the moment. All right, we've got our little trim piece to pop in. Note the hooks, they go on the square holes there. So kind of come down and work on re-engaging those, maybe. Looks like we got a little guest. Okay, all right, that's in place. Now you might choose to put that on after you get these screws in. I kind of wanted to get it in place first, just didn't want to necessarily have to fight anything. Now we've got our torque screws. All right. So I'm just going to kind of hand tighten those on in. Got one on in there. So this is why we're kind of leaving everything a little loose at first. So you've got some room to wiggle and adjust and get everything all in place. So we're gonna have some push pins. We got these push pins to get in. Pull our little clips out, go in, hold it in, attach. Okay, go in. Okay, we're all set there. Couple more push pins. Make sure I'm not forgetting something. We got our dash to go on. I'm trying to remember if our dash uses anything. I don't think so. Back together there. Oh, I've got a few more screws. Okay, we've got some additional torque screws here. There. One on the opposite side. I think we are all set, except for those push pins. Okay, we'll put those in now. Okay. Get this in place. Okay. Just didn't kind of like the way that would fit. We are ready for some tightening our torques. T40 is your torque size. So at this stage, most of you have been here. Now we're just got hood and the side panels to put on. We can go ahead and get the hood plopped on. This here was just the diagnostic connector. We'll put it back into its just a storage plug. And now we just got just the hood to put on. Now we have our connector over here for our hood. Actually kind of interesting that that's all loose. I think that's supposed to, I think the dealer left that not in its hole. That's connected. All right. Well, we are all back together, except for our side panels. So last thing here on this side. So making sure you remember to tighten up your hose for your turbo intake. And now it's just an easy time to do it before the cover goes back on. That's it. All right, we're ready to start it up. Not sure if it, normally it would flash the light pretty quick as soon as they engage throttle. We'll just have to see if we have any new fault codes. So we will line her up. Okay, so we're gonna get ready to fire this up. We'll see if we have any codes now after working on it. See if that low fuel pressure light just stays on, at least here through some throttle input. Before on our ride, I just had to crack the throttle and the low pressure fault code came on. So, all right, we will line it up. Yeah, let's change display while I'm thinking about it. Let's get back to, let's just get into gauges. Okay, so what are we for? So this occurred at, figure out how to find my mileage. So I guess I got 107 miles on it. Okay, let's fire up. Well, so far so good. I guess we'll just have to take it out in the snow and find out if our little wiring patch has taken care of our low fuel pressure fault code and D rate. So stay tuned. We'll follow up and let you know how the repair results came out.